The latest developments on President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows telling ABC News this morning that he is optimistic the president will be able to leave the hospital today and that a decision will be made later today between President Trump and his medical team. This after the president briefly and unexpectedly left the hospital on Sunday for a surprise drive past his supporters outside Walter Reed Medical Center. That's where Trump is waking up again this morning as he continues to battle the virus that has now claimed the lives of more than 209,000 Americans. Over the weekend, the president delivering a message from the hospital that he now, quote, gets it.
I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school.
Now, that surprise drive-by is raising questions this morning about the safety of the Secret Service agents in the car with him as COVID cases linked to the president continue to grow. At least 11 people, including First Lady Melania Trump, have tested positive after attending recent events like that Supreme Court nomination ceremony just over a week ago. Cecilia Vega is outside Walter Reed Medical Center and starts us off.
It was a stunt that violated CDC guidelines and unnecessarily put the health of Secret Service agents at risk. The president breaking his quarantine at Walter Reed to do a drive-by for his supporters gathered outside the hospital. He's there in the back seat wearing a mask and waving. Others in the SUV with him exposed. Health experts say the president likely still contagious. Overnight, the White House saying in a statement appropriate precautions were taken, including PPE. The movement was cleared by the medical team as safe to do. But the administration's own CDC says any movement of a hospitalized COVID patient outside their room should only be done for medically essential purposes. And Walter Reed attending physician Dr. James Phillips saying the irresponsibility is astounding, adding every person in that car now has to quarantine for 14 days. They might get sick. They may die for political theater. And after a weekend in the hospital, he now says he's learned a lot.
So it's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This isn't the let's read the book school. And I get it.
It follows a weekend of mixed messages and false statements from the president's medical team. On Saturday, White House Dr. Sean Conley repeatedly dodging questions about whether the president was so sick he needed oxygen.
Yesterday and today, he was not on oxygen. Thursday, no oxygen, none at this moment. Yeah, and yesterday with the team, while we were all here, he was not on oxygen.
But now, Conley says he did actually administer oxygen to the president on Friday at the White House after his blood oxygen dropped. Sources telling ABC the president had difficulty breathing.
I was concerned for possible rapid progression of the illness. I recommended the president we try some supplemental oxygen, see how he'd respond.
Also over the weekend, Conley time and time again painted a rosy picture of the president's condition.
This morning, the president is doing very well. The team and I are extremely happy with the progress the president has made.
But just minutes after that, the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows issued a dire warning to reporters saying we are still not on a clear path to a full recovery. Later telling Fox News the president's health deteriorated and aides were very concerned.
He had a fever and his blood oxygen level had dropped rapidly.
By Sunday, the president's doctors in full damage control.
I was trying to reflect the upbeat attitude that the team, the president, that his course of illness has had. I didn't want to give any information that might steer the course of illness in another direction, and in doing so, it came off that we were trying to hide something, which wasn't necessarily true, so here I have it.
The White House releasing these pictures of the president at work inside Walter Reed. Doctors say he's responding well to the antiviral treatment remdesivir and a steroid.
He's ambulating himself, walking around the White House medical unit without limitation or disability.
But this morning, there are serious questions about why and how President Trump caught COVID in the first place. Last week's Rose Garden announcement for his Supreme Court pick, Amy Coney Barrett, a possible super spreader event. The packed crowd shoulder to shoulder, few wearing masks, both outside and at an indoor reception. So far, 9 people in attendance testing positive, including the First Lady, who is experiencing a mild cough and headache. Also, Kellyanne Conway, 2 Republican senators, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie seen at the event hugging others. Christie also part of the president's debate prep team last week, and now 5 out of the 9 people involved have tested positive, including top aide Hope Hicks and campaign manager Bill Stepien. And it doesn't end there. Others who had recent contact with the president testing positive too, including White House journalists, the head of the Republican Party, and the president's personal assistant and body man, seen boarding Air Force One last week with Hicks, neither wearing a mask.
And Cecilia Vega joins me now from outside Walter Reed Medical Center. There have been some questions on the timeline of President Trump's diagnosis. What do we know about when he was exposed and when he tested positive?
Yeah, Eva, good morning to you. These are a lot of questions right now because doctors essentially refused to answer this question over the weekend when they were repeatedly asked about this timeline. But let me tell you what we do know. Sources are telling us that President Trump had already received his positive test result when he called into Fox News and spoke to Sean Hannity on Thursday night, despite the fact that the president told Hannity that he was still waiting for his results. A lot of questions also about his trip to Bedminster on Wednesday for that fundraiser. His press secretary is saying that when he took that trip, he had not received his positive test results at the time. But Eva, you know this, there are still pretty serious questions about why he went anyway, because even when he did go, whether or not he had that positive test result, he still knew that he had been exposed to Hope Hicks, who tested positive. And we're now learning, Eva, that he put about 200 supporters at risk when he went ahead and went to that fundraiser anyway.
And speaking of putting people at risk, do we know any more about who on the president's medical team cleared that drive outside Walter Reed last night?
No, we don't. And the White House is saying that people on that team did clear it. But look, it almost doesn't matter because the reality is the president is still under quarantine here at Walter Reed. And that means that you are not supposed to leave. His own CDC, as we said in our piece, says that you're not supposed to leave a hospital room quarantine unless it's medically essential. This was clearly not medically essential. The experts that we've spoken to say that it's very likely that President Trump is still contagious. He jeopardized the Secret Service that he was in that SUV with. He also jeopardized the medical professionals who were here when he decided to take this trip. And we should also note that in that video that the president released announcing this surprise drive-by, he said that he also met with military troops here in the hospital. So there are some pretty serious questions about that. And you know this, there's this doctor here at Walter Reed, an attending physician, Eva, who is calling this stunt basically reckless, and says that these Secret Service agents are now going to have to quarantine for 14 days because they were in that SUV with the president and potentially exposed to COVID from him.
Cecilia Vega, you've been watching this all weekend outside Walter Reed Medical Center. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.